In this episode, I finish a big project, and I learn a little something about myself. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So here we have part 3 of our Duel Huey build. And basically, I'm picking up right where we left off before. We have this is the modern model kit that we've got the hull together. It's primed, and I'm getting ready to start doing all of my sanding and seam filling to take care of the seam lines in there. I'm doing the assembly a little different this time than I did on the first one. I'm putting in the doors after the fact because they're not going to be opening and closing. I'm also going to put in a lot of the windows after the fact, so I don't have to do as much masking, and we'll just see how that goes. Also, I've got the ordnance all prepped and ready to go for prime. On this one of the options was the machine guns with the ammunition belts coming out of the chopper, and I just really didn't like the way it looked. I couldn't really make it look decent. The molds aren't that great on those parts, so what I decided to do is I really like the rockets and also the rocket launchers, so I kind of just, even though this isn't really an option in the instructions, I've got the small rocket launchers and the large rockets all on the same rails, so we're going to put that on both sides, so it's going to be a rocket ship basically. Got my tail prop all ready to go. The engine's nice and detailed. We'll get that all masked up. Same with the part of the prop here. This will actually be removed when we go and start doing painting, but everything else will be masked and filled in just like we did on the first chopper. On the first chopper, as you can see, I've done started doing some detailing, some washing. I'm going to go back and do some dry brushing on some areas and continue that along the chopper. I still have a few details I want to add into that, some decals that I haven't put on yet. I want to wait till the next level of detailing goes in. So right now it's kind of got a glossy kind of look to it. That's on purpose. So that one's coming along great. I already got the rotors and everything done. Downside, the skids for the new chopper, I don't know if you can see this, but they are a little warped. Well, that stinks. So I may have to figure out a way to unwarp these. I don't know if, maybe when I glue them in, they'll just naturally straighten out. Otherwise, I may have to take a little heat to them and try to get them to go back to where they should be. But that's a problem for later. Right now, I'm going to grab some body filler, some sandpaper, and some more glue and paint, and we're going to get back to part 3 of this double build. And here we have the completed Duel Huey build, finally. As I stated in the intro of the video, I learned a few things about myself in this build. One, this is a big build. Building two of the same exact models, for me, was a challenge because I tended to focus on the air ambulance first, which the air ambulance is the kit from the 80s. And as I worked through this, there were a lot of challenging parts to the build, like seam lines and fit and all that. And I kind of had enough at a couple points. Then when I got to the newer chopper from the 2000s, I kind of wasn't looking forward to doing all of those really challenging parts of the build. It didn't make it any easier when the first early basic parts of this build just did not want to fit right. So that's one of the reasons why this video series has taken so long to complete, because I just lost interest in finishing this one because this one was so much work. And I'm not against hard work, don't get me wrong, but what I've also learned about myself is I tend to get not bored with the subject, but maybe distracted on other newer subjects as we go along, because during the process of this build, I have built and completed several other kits during this time. At one point, I actually had to put them both away and walk away from them for a while, and then come back to them when I felt like I had the state of mind to really focus on them and work on them well. For me, this was a big deal because, as I stated in the first video, when I was a kid, my grandfather and I built the older version. However, it was probably originally even older than this. It was probably from the 70s. So I really wanted to have that experience of thinking back and fond memories of building the other kit. And another thing I've learned is that my memories are probably not what really happened. I know for a fact when we built this kit back in the 70s, we built it over probably a few days. And me, being a kid, I just wanted to play with it and kind of rush the process along, and my grandfather, being an engineer, wanted to take his time and do it right. So we compromised. It finally got together. We didn't paint anything. I don't even remember putting decals on it. And then I got to play with it. So really, I think my grandfather probably just gave up and said, here, go play with it. Which is fine. I remember it, it's a fond memory. Now, building these newer kits as an adult, is a really nice experience. And I didn't want to taint it with, oh, I really hate this kit, it's a pain in the butt, blah, blah, blah. So I just took my time, and eventually, we have the completed kits. So now let me go over the challenges with the two kits. The old kit, actually, fit-wise, was pretty good. The parts actually fit together. The material seemed sturdier. You could really sand and cut on it. And overall, this kit, even though it's old and I wasn't able to use the original decals from it, went together really well. The seam lines were there and present, but that's a typical Revell kit of any era. And they were fixable. And overall, this kit went together really well, and I enjoyed building this one. The newer kit, the material is a little more, I don't know how to explain it. The material just isn't the same. You can't really sand on it as well because you'll tend to gouge it rather than just sand on it and smooth it out. The parts, even though they should be the same exact mold as this one, the parts did not fit very well on the newer model. I had a lot of challenges with getting things to fit right. The guns that I wanted to use with the you know, the belts with the ammunition and everything, they're just horrible looking, and I couldn't really make them look good. So that's why I went with the rockets. I actually really like how the rockets came out on this one. I didn't do much of detailing on the interior because it's pretty plain. It would be nice if they could have kits that came with more of a detailed interior, like seating or even like medevac stuff, something extra than what it does come with. But it is what it is. Okay, so let's go pros and cons with this kit. Pros, these are historical kits. They've been around forever. Pros, it's a really fun build if you take your time and you have some experience in building models. Pro, it could be slapped together very quickly, just as, hey, let's build a model and let's slap it together, and, you know, to get people interested in building the models, as long as you don't have high expectations of anything. Cons, part fit is horrible on a lot of parts. Part fit isn't horrible. I found the part fit challenging in some areas, and it wasn't like challenging like, oh, I can fix that, oh, I can make that work. Part fit in, it just doesn't want to fit right, which can be kind of frustrating because you don't want to hack up the kit just to make one part fit right, and then the rest of the parts later don't fit at all. Another con is the detail is okay, but the detail is not great. You could add detail to these and make them look even better, but that's a lot higher level of skill and a lot more work and time you're going to put in. So overall, I still think these are good kits. And I may, crazy enough, at some point, may want to build another one. But probably not anytime soon. So my suggestion for this kit, I would not give this kit to a fairly new modeler to build. I would wait until that modeler had probably 10 or 12 kits under their belt to get them some experience and how to deal with some of the challenges that they're going to face with these kits. As far as how my finished products came out and my overall view of them, I like the build on the older one. However, I really like how my paint job on the newer one came out. Now, on the older kit, I did the air ambulance, and I purchased some decals offline, and I'll leave a link to where I got the decals in the description below. I was going for a air ambulance version, so it's a little dirty and a little beat up in areas, but otherwise it's a pretty good looking chopper. For the gunship, or the rocket ship, I decided to go with more of a down and dirty kind of look to it. So this chopper's been, you know, in a lot of battles. It's been in and out of low-level flying, shooting rockets, flying through explosions. So I wanted to have the overall look of it be quite a bit dirtier than the medevac or the air ambulance. And I think it came out really good. The process I used on these was a little different on each one. On the old one, I did a gray primer on the body, and then I pre-shaded all of my lines with black. Actually, I used German gray, and then painted over the olive drab, and then touched it up and weathered it here and there. On this one, I experimented a little more. I did do a gray primer. I did my pre-shading with NATO black, and then I went in and used some olive green to highlight the areas where just the primer was. And then I went in with the olive drab, and instead of just spraying it over and lighting it up, I actually sprayed in every area. I didn't just coat it, you know, in a one coat kind of spray like this. I did this, so I could keep all my detail and my highlights from the NATO black shading and the olive green highlighting. And then after I did some more weathering with washes and such, I went in and I added some wear. I used a sponge technique to add some silver chipping around areas where people would be working on components of the helicopter. And then for the last stage of the weathering, I took some earth tone paint, lightened it up a little bit, and then I went in and highlighted areas where I thought would be, you know, dirt and dust are getting kicked up from landing and from explosions and fighting. So as you can see, the bottom is much lighter, and then it kind of gets darker as it goes up. So I really like the way this one came out. And even on the front of the gunship, it's not clean, it's not pretty, it's a fighter. It's in there doing the dirty jobs. So overall, I love both kits. I love how both of them came out. They're different, even though they're the same kit. I wanted them to be quite different from each other, and I think I accomplished that. So let me know in the comments which paint scheme you like better, or which chopper you like better, the old model or the newer model, the medevac scheme or the fighting scheme. I'd really like to know. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you could, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button down below. So that concludes my 3-part series on the Duel Huey build. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I enjoyed the process and the learning experience of going through it with you. So we'll wrap this up until the next build. Be safe out there and go build something.